A number of components in the Vision module use something called an extension function. An extension function is a type of scripting function that is left up to you, the user, to implement. So, for example, the power table here makes extensive use of extension functions. You can see here under the component scripting tree, there's a large list of extension functions here. And it's impossible to describe what extension functions are for because each component uses them for different purposes. But they're used to give you, the user, the proper place to put a script for a very specific purpose. And the way that they're programmed is by you click on the extension function and you enable it, and then you'll see that there's already a fair amount of code here. And the most important thing to realize is that what you're doing when you implement an extension function is you're implementing the implementation of a function that's already been defined. So the component itself has defined this function called onPopUpTrigger and a whole slew of arguments here, and then it uses a triple quoted string here. This is a very standard Python way of adding documentation to a function. It's called a docstring. So you can read what the extension function is all about by reading the docstring. So here you can see that onPopUpTrigger is called when the user right-clicks on a table cell. And there's even a little example script that you can uncomment here to give you a bit of a head start in implementing these things. So in this case, we're defining a new function inside of this function that will open up a message box, and we're adding that thing into a pop-up menu, and we're showing the pop-up menu. So you can see that this thing works just fine. And the important thing to realize is, why is this an extension function? You have to imagine the amount of work you would have had to do if this extension function wasn't here to achieve the same functionality. So if you were to try to piece together something like this using a mouse handler, there would be a massive amount of work to do to, for example, translate the mouse coordinates to the coordinates of a cell, and you would have to compensate for any kind of sorting or rearranging that the user had done. A whole bunch of work that would make implementing something as simple as a pop-up trigger way too hard. And so this lets the component do all that work for you and then just call your implementation at the correct time. So you put the implementation in it, but the component decides when to call. So just to give you a little bit more flavor of other components that use extension functions for totally different purposes, the EasyChart component has an extension function that allows you to provide extra configuration onto the chart itself. Or the alarm status component allows you to write an extension function, even though there's a number of properties that let you define which alarms in your system you want to display. At some point, properties never give you the ultimate level of flexibility that scripting can give you. And so there's an extension function for filtering which alarms are shown. So this function is going to get called for each alarm that the alarm status table pulls out of the gateway, and then whether or not your script returns true or false determines whether or not that alarm is displayed inside the table. So you can see there's a really wide array of purposes that extension functions serve. Just remember that to teach yourself what any given extension function is for, just read the docstring. They're self-documenting, which is really nice.